As Rajatar awakened from his unconsciousness, the smell of wet grass and mud registered in his senses first. Then he realized his face was laying against the damp ground, hands tied behind his back. Confusion hit Rajatar as he attempted to lift himself from the floor. His body ached from both prolonged laying in an uncomfortable posture and battle wounds. His mind is clouded by his period of unconsciousness. He could hear voices and activity around, but the language is oddly familiar, but incomprehensible. Light stang as he opened his eyes. His retina slowly adjusted, then begins to take in the environment around him. This is a human camp. As realization sets in, Rajatar attempted to free himself from whatever bound his hands, and tried to stand up, but was really interrupted by a sharp pain at the back of his head, caused by some hard object smacking into it. His legs gave out, and he kneed on the ground again, followed by a growly human voice. "Stay put, you giant dog." Pain stimulated his dull mind, and memories began to fade back in bits and pieces. The battle, the charge, halo projectiles, the boomsticks, the damn Tin Man that bested him. He could hear angry yet familiar voices swearing in Sidician, and some calling for his name in concern from his left. He resisted the pain and forced his head to turn. It was Chimali, a rider of his war host, and a few others of it were here as well, and ones from other hosts too, all tied up and forced in this shameful sight by the humans, the Savanians. "What happened?" Rajatar asks. Though his ego prevented him from fully comprehending his defeat and capture, Rajatar still wanted to fully understand the situation. "The low-life mudborn tricked us. They concealed a ditch in front of their boomstick sorcerers. Our war beasts were slain between our legs, and we were forced to fight on foot. Then came the treacherous Tin Men, the Knights, by God knows what dark magic they..." With reluctance, Chimali spat out the words with spite. "They defeated us. Near Korkux is killed, and the rest of the host retreated." "The Master of 100 Hosts is killed? How?" Rajatar was shocked. The honoured Korkux is a veteran warrior with years of experience in battle, undefeated through the numerous campaign he led. "He was shot dead by a boom barrel when he tried to rally the hosts," Chimali said with bitterness on his tongue. Before Rajatar could inquire more, a Tin Man, but not quite one, approached. He lacked the elegant footing of one, and his armour did not cover his body fully as his shin and feet were exposed, nor was as ordained as a proper Tin Man. Rajatar recalled human captives call them cuirassiers. Still, he is still able to identify this human as a higher-ranked personnel in the Savanian military. He watched as his cuirassier officer approached the soldiers that were guarding them, and began to exchange conversation. Rajatar can't quite make out their expression, nor could he understand human tongue. He would not lower himself to learn such foul language of the Mudborns. After a few words, the Savanian officer came closer to the captured giants. Though on their knees, the Sidicians were still around the same height as an adult human male. The officers stared sharply at the first prisoner of the line, Tartoch of the Golden Axe Warhost. Then he pulled out his warlock pistol on his belt, and shot through Tartoch's head. Loud chatter and the others' roar came as soon as the ring of gunshot echoed around the camp. Some tried to raise up, attempting to pounce on the officer and tear into his throat with their teeth if necessary, but was either held down by a few human soldiers, or received the same beating as Rajatar did. "Where is the honour of killing a defenceless opponent, Mudborn?" Rajatar growled. "I demand you release me and conduct a just fight." The human cuirassier officer stopped cocking his other warlock pistol. His head snapped towards Rajatar, that surprised all the present Sidician prisoners as he spoke fluent, though heavily accented, Sidician. "Honour?" His puzzled tune began to degrade into laughter, then into rage. "Honour? How dare you speak of honour?" The human officer growled. He stepped closer at a quick pace and furiously reached out and seized Rajatar's hair, and dragged him deeper inside the camp, towards the tents of the wounded and the dead. The pain forced Rajatar to move along, half dragged and half scrambling, his rage temporarily halted by this sudden shock and pain. Trostfrau camp followers were tending to the wounded when they were interrupted by the noise and action. Some started peeking out to see the scene outside. When they reached the tents, the curious officer released the shouting and swearing Rajatar, then a strong punch in his face to shut him up again. He placed a firm grip on Rajatar's head and forced him to face the direction of the tents. More bystanders and camp followers wandered out to see what was going on. Most are women of various ages. Some grasped as they saw the Sidician giant, and some began to whisper amongst themselves, attempting to understand the situation. "You see those women, Giant? They lost loved ones, their family, their husbands, children, friends, acquaintances, due to your raids. Not soldiers, no warriors, but defenseless people, carpenters, smiths, scholars, fishermen, and farmers. We never wanted war, but you brought this upon yourselves." The Sidician warrior looked around. He could see the rage in their eyes, the hatred so deep as if knives were cutting at him. "You dare speak of honor when you commit atrocities upon us?" "Your hypocrisy disgusts me. There was no honor in this for us. You never saw us as individuals, living beings, nor equals, but prey and challenges to your war game. Now you demand honor from us?" Rajatar wanted to argue back, to throw insults and justify his actions, but at this moment he didn't know what to say. The words choked at his throat, as if those questions were tearing his logical mind bit by bit. Before he could come up with a response, the human officer let go of Rajatar's head and walked in front, so that he could face the Sidician giant face to face again. Then he spoke again. "You asked where is our honor? Our honorable ones are dead. They died at Ramberg, Tovansky, Gornberg, at Valenkia, Stentia, Norland's Gate, and at Scalenta Rocca." The human slowly cocked his wheel-lock pistol, and a clean click resonated in Rajatar's ears. "And we are the honourless scum that is left." Then a trigger was pulled.